Next on the agenda, the final in her word speaker is Guyza Archer-Mayers. Guyza Archer-Mayers is a 20-year-old aspiring attorney at law, currently pursuing her Bachelors of Law degree at the University of the West Indies Cavehill campus. She is passionate about reparations for Caribbean descendants of the Africans who were enslaved, sexuality. Okay, let me restart that. She is passionate about reparations for Caribbean descendants of the Africans who were enslaved, sexuality educational reform, building Barbados's jurisprudence, and climate change, and many other topics. Leadership has been and continues to be the major part of Guyza's life. During her years at Combermere, she held the positions of prefect in full form and eventually held the school captain role of the academic year of 2020 to 2021. Guyza also revived the Students' Council, and she held the position of the Minister of Academics, aided the pinch of the school board for school-wide Wi-Fi, ran the school's social media pages, good job, and organized the student attendance and apparel for BSAC. Guyza is currently a member of EUB's Debating Society, JCI Barbados, the third cohort of Think Parliament, the Academic Development Group of Combermere Old Scholars, and a player on the hockey team, Dubai. Her work with the Combermere Old Scholars has allowed the team to provide scholarships for current students, and her work with Dubai has seen her in charge of their social media page. So give a virtual hand to Guyza Archer-Mayers.
Good evening, everyone. Protocol already established. I'll be doing my speech today on sexuality education. So, sex is not a black and white issue, nor should it be a taboo subject. We all know that. Sexuality education is one of the most important things a young person can learn so they can understand themselves and make informed decisions regarding their bodies, decisions that can impact their lives well into adulthood. I'm going to be frank, because for far too long, we have tiptoed around this issue, leaving many young people disadvantaged and vulnerable to misinformation, resulting in teenage pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, etc. The fact of the matter is that we are all here because two people have sexual intercourse. Now that the elephant in the room has been addressed, maybe now we can have a more in-depth conversation. Sexuality education has been the topic of many a debate, especially in recent times. Many individuals believe that exposing young persons to comprehensive sexuality education may encourage sexual behavior. Thus, many Caribbean countries' education ministries have adopted a pro-abstinence approach. Unfortunately, this approach does not adequately address the needs of young people who are curious for information regarding their bodies, and as a result, turn to peers who are more likely to give them ill-informed advice or to porn to provide them the sex education that their parents and schools refuse to provide them. What is worse is that within the public forum, this discussion has been skewed into a political and religious debate, which no longer addresses the real issues of young people's sexual and reproductive health. Many believers in this approach may find themselves in debates with promoters of a comprehensive, gender-sensitive, and rights-based sexuality education for all young people. Bracken and Cardinal, in their article for the International Journal of Sexual Health, lay out 3 approaches to sexuality education and give an insight into how a comprehensive approach combining all 3 would look. The first approach is the morality approach. Sexuality is used to pass on moral values and norms from the religion which is perceived to be prevailing in a given society. These values can make it difficult for teachers who have to balance a strong community resistance to sexuality education and students who want to know about their bodies. These persisting cultural and religious values often prevent adequate examination of certain topics, especially with respect to sexual diversity, non-marital sexual relationships, and LGBTQIA+ relationships. The second approach is the health approach, which takes an almost mechanical look at sexuality education. It seeks to educate young people on concerns about unwanted pregnancies, STIs, and HIV. While health is direly important to sexuality education, this approach falls short in addressing inequalities and tends to focus more on women, as they are seen as more susceptible are vulnerable to these issues. The usual exclusion of men from this approach robs young people of a full understanding of what an active sexual life entails, and these contraceptive responsibilities should not solely fall on women. Finally, the rights-based approach focuses on rights within society. Bracken and Cardinal once again state, and I quote, that it is important to support an education which is able to encompass all vulnerable groups, to question gender roles and social stereotypes, and enable all members of society to make choices about their sexuality, end quote. All of these approaches have their own benefits and challenges separately, but using the comprehensive approach, which combines them and takes the best qualities from all, allows for thorough teaching and learning. This type of sexuality education provides the setting for an in-depth, accurate curriculum that examines subjects such as relationships, sexual behavior, sexual and reproductive health, and society and culture. Comprehensive sexuality education gives young people the tools to feel more confident in making informed health-related decisions about their bodies, learn about bodily autonomy and consent, and to better understand how their bodies work. However, sexuality education is not the missing puzzle piece that will solve all sexual and reproductive health problems, but education is key and debatedly one of the most important steps to improving young people's sexual health and well-being. Now you may be saying, nice Guyza, fair enough, but how do we redefine the content of sexuality education? Well, one of the issues in our current system, which is relevant to us here today, is the lack of gender analysis. Many times, girls, if lucky, learn about periods, sexual intercourse, and pregnancy, but actual in-depth gender analysis is missed from the curriculum. Oftentimes, girls leave these classes with very little information to help them navigate relationships or provide them with an understanding as to why certain changes in their bodies are happening. One time too many, we have let our girls leave secondary school without any discussion of relevant topics like child sexual grooming, the gender dimensions of sex, or a comprehensive understanding of consent, leaving sexuality education relatively disconnected from the social context in which sex takes place. By allowing gender analysis in our curriculum, we allow young people to discuss issues such as the continuum between consensual and unconsensual sex, the pressure of masculinity norms for boys, and the lack of power in sexual decisions often faced by girls. The comprehensive outlook would educate on multiple methods of contraception outside of abstinence only, and aim to provide young people with information, tools, and critical thinking skills. It is important to note that this education cannot be regulated to schools only and would need the involvement of all social sectors to ensure the best futures for the youth. Us, as young people, must advocate for better, more comprehensive sexuality education services in or out of school, and then participate actively in these programs. While it is occasionally frowned upon, peer education also plays an important role in disseminating sexuality education messages. To end this discourse, I will leave you with my recommendations. The syllabus for guidance and HFLE classes need to be updated, and counselors trained on teaching young women and girls about consent, body odors, changes happening to their bodies, bodily autonomy, etc., instead of the pro-abstinence approach that has only done the youth of Barbados a disservice. Thank you.
A round of applause for Guyza and her impactful speech.